It is the Pete Sousa Show from the 21st floor here in the Alico building. So good to be back with you. So good. We are presented by Slovacics, of course, good friends of Crawford Austin Property, D1, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, and Socorro Family Ford. We're getting ready to hit the road soon to do some live shows, probably early December, I imagine. So very, very much looking forward to that. A lot going on this weekend. In the world of college football, as it is now Wednesday, and with just 3 games left in the regular season in the Big 12, the chairs are still moving, right? The music is still playing, but when the music stops soon, there's only going to be a few seats that are available for teams that are able to make the Big 12 title game. And I am here to tell you, and it's not breaking news, this is from like the Tim Brando school of this stuff. As I roll my sleeves up, we're really ready to get into it here. There's one more round of chaos left. Like guaranteed, there's one more round of chaos left. And if you look at college football, after the rankings were put out yesterday, there are some changes, especially when you look at what's going on with Miami and their loss. BYU actually moves up a little bit after a game where it was almost, it seemed likely for a moment that they might lose. But order somewhat was restored for BYU towards the end of that game against Utah. They were able to win, obviously. But now they're going to face a conflict towards the end of the season, and I'm going to tell you why. So they are taking on, and this is like maybe a little inside baseball, but a couple months ago, their schedule looked a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry. Their schedule down the stretch looked really good. They had an opportunity, right? It seemed to just like run the table clean. And this is not a knock on BYU and what's happened to them as a team. I think that they have showed some vulnerability over the course of the past few weeks, but I think that they've done what they need to do to kind of win these games, right? To find a way to somehow pull it out of the bag. They've done that. They did it against Oklahoma State, and they did it against Utah. But 3 weeks ago, I would have told you, okay, well, here's their schedule, last 3 games. Now, Saturday, they take on Kansas at home. Arizona State after that on the road, and then back at home against Houston. Now, this schedule, which look like a cakewalk into the Big 12 title game. You're playing a Kansas team that has won, I guess, 2 of its last 3 games, including an absolute ass-kicking of Iowa State at home. And what's more revealing is right now, this spread is at 3 points. The game is in Provo. Now, that's the 3 points. Sometimes Vegas will say, okay, well, you get 2.5, right, for being a road team. You get that 2.5 points. So you could almost say, like, it's like a pick 'em. And the reason why it's a pick 'em is because Kansas has been playing amazing football, running the football. They're the second best running team in the Big 12. They've got possibly one of the best running backs in the conference, maybe in the nation, in Devin Neal. The guy is putting the finishing touches on a historic career as a Jayhawk. And let's turn back the clock now. Before the season, everybody who thought they knew anything about college football had Kansas ranked in the top 20. They were picked to win the Big 12 in many circles. Now here we are. Then after that, they go to play on the road at Arizona State. Arizona State coming off a win against UCF. Arizona State has a huge game this weekend against Kansas State on the road. Final game, you go to play Houston. That game's at home. Houston right now has won 3 of their last 4. So it's like, and look, I know Utah plays great defense, but BYU showed us that they are more than just a little human last week. And with 3 games left to play, the margin for error is slim, but the chances of it are somewhat great. And this is not a knock on BYU. This is simply saying their schedule is going to be really tough down the stretch, way tougher than I had initially thought. So that's something right there to keep an eye on. Another thing that you've got to keep an eye on if you're following Big 12 football is Colorado. Now, Colorado has an opportunity this weekend against Utah. Again, they're back at home. Big noon kickoff will be there. It's like big noon kickoff, and this is great for the Big 12. Just continues to roll around, right, and go to different places in the Big 12. I think it's the third or fourth Big 12 school they've been at this year. But Colorado is certainly a team who they want to cover. I want to see if I can pull up the Buff schedule here. Okay, I got it. So Colorado 7-2 right now. We take a look at the end of their schedule. They have Utah at home, who I think okay, that's a win. I'm going to say it. Last game of the season, they have Oklahoma State at home. I'm calling that a win. Now, in between that, they are at Kansas, which all of a sudden now the Jayhawks have become like this daunting opponent. And oh, by the way, the games that Kansas has lost this year, they've lost by an average of 5 points. And unfortunately for Lance Leipold and his team, they have lost, they have lost 6 games. So they're 3-6. So those 6 games that they've lost, that's kind of like a lot of games to lose, right? But if your average is 5 points over losing those 6 games, like there's a window into something going down there. And I just think Kansas is going to be a real pain in the ass for teams to play here down the stretch. And I think they end up on, I think Baylor has them. If I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong about that? Let me see. Yeah. So I think Kansas is ready to play spoiler and upset like a lot of teams and fans' expectations. And I think it starts this weekend with BYU. That's something to keep an eye on. Back to Colorado. One thing that's been I've had this in my craw a little bit. Deion Sanders is a superstar. There is a lot of sizzle and a lot of shine and a lot of excitement and a lot of money and a lot of attention that comes with Deion Sanders. You could say it's a bad thing. I personally look at it as a good thing, especially if you're Colorado. Hiring Deion Sanders has turned into a windfall financially, admissions-wise, right? It's like Colorado's harder to get into now than ever because everybody's applying. And football-wise, I mean, that's why you hired him, to win football games. The ancillary effects are undeniable. What's happening on the football field is now slowly but surely becoming undeniable as well. This is a team that's 7-2 that is in pole position to end up in the college football playoff. And the frustrating thing about Colorado and Deion Sanders, and this is just an issue that I have, is the court of public opinion looks at Deion Sanders as like an AAU football coach, right? Like a guy who is not necessarily stressing the right things, building the program the right way, teaching his team, how to behave. That is all, I'll say, bullshit. Okay, this is a team, when you watch watching Travis Hunter, watching Shedeur Sanders, and those are just 2 guys who we talk about all the time, and why not? Travis Hunter is a generational talent. We had the opportunity to talk with Bruce Feldman today from Fox Sports on that Inside the 12 show that I do. And Bruce Feldman was talking about, like, it's impossible to compare Travis Hunter to anyone. There has not been a player within the last 100 years that has been this effective playing this many snaps. Charles Woodson at Michigan, yeah, sure. He played wide receiver, but he played some wide receiver. I think Gamble was a guy who he talked about. Kenny Gamble. Is it Kenny Gamble? It's not. I don't know if it's Kenny Gamble. I'm going to say Gamble to make sure. Now I got to look it up. Scotty, will you look that up? Gamble, football player, played both ways. Chris Gamble. So Chris Gamble, same deal. Played both ways. Obviously not generational. He's become forgettable, at least for me. But those guys are so special. We talk about them all the time because they are so special. Shedeur Sanders, you could say without Shedeur Sanders, Colorado would be in huge trouble. Like losing Shedeur Sanders would really, really just debilitate this team. Though when you really take a close look at Colorado and why they're not the team last year that was fighting for clicks, that was 3-0 and then went to Oregon and got the doors blown off and the entire season just went sideways. That was the second year or the first year of a rebuild. Coming off, taking over a program that had won one game the year before and was at an all-time low. I mean, you could maybe say it was a little darker when Bill McCartney took over or when he did take over and they were just there was something with the law used to come up like every 5 minutes it seemed, but McCartney got the ship righted, won a national championship. But, that was a small window of great success. With Deion Sanders and whatever success Deion Sanders would have, it's not like it could be another small window. It's not like he's going to spend the rest of his life in Boulder. Be cool if he did for college football, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. But he's building a program. Nobody wants to acknowledge that for some reason. For some reason, nobody wants to talk about the fact that this is how you rebuild a college football team in today's environment of college football. Their defense, they've gotten much better up front, offensively and defensively, which is how you win football games. Last year, Shedeur Sanders, he was getting beat up so bad. I think maybe he was sacked more than any quarterback in the country, maybe one other. That's two reasons why. One, the guy's a dog and he doesn't leave the field. But two, the protection was awful. And guys couldn't get open either. And now you have a situation where this team is really starting to round out. And I don't think the praise is being distributed. Like, think about it. Just think about it. When people think about Deion Sanders, do they really think about him as a football coach? Scotty, I need you for this. Like, when you think about Deion Sanders, do you think about him as a football coach?
Only in the last 2.5 years.
But even now, and maybe you, like, I think people look at Deion even today as a celebrity and not a football coach.
Well, I mean, he's Coach Prime. He's not even Deion, right? Like,
yeah.
He's got a brand. He's still selling the sunglasses. Like,
yeah.
Like that's who he is. You know?
But there's a lot of guys throughout the country. Let's just say Joey Maguire. Okay.
All right. Yep.
He's a football coach.
100%.
And you might even think that if you were to put Joey Maguire and Deion Sanders against each other, or maybe even let's do another guy on our front lawn, Dave Aranda, who is like X's and O's guy, right?
He's
like
a computer.
You would say those two guys are probably better football coaches than Deion Sanders.
I wouldn't say that right now.
No, but
how many, let me ask you this, Pete, how many in every sport, great players try to make a jump into coaching and just fail?
Yes.
Horribly. Steve Nash is one of the most brilliant basketball players ever.
Yeah.
He might never coach again.
No, yeah. And look at what Deion did at Jackson State.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, really, you look at that, like, he built a winner. He's doing it again. This is not a microwave.
It's not a fluke.
Either. No, and it's certainly not like, you've had two amazing blue chip prospects. That's not his fault that he has a couple of winners like that who are two of the best players in the country. And if anything, that almost got them ahead of schedule last year. And so now, they he took a chance on the defensive coordinator, Robert Livingston. Mm-hmm. He had been a positional coach his whole career at Cincinnati. He hires Livingston. Livingston's doing very well. Pat Shurmur is doing a great job coaching the offense. I'm not saying that he's Vince Lombardi, right? Or that he's Nick Saban. But what I'm saying is the idea that he's a celebrity or a star. Look, dude, he's doing something right football-wise.
Well,
and it's going to be here to stay for a while. I think that's my biggest point. This isn't going anywhere. As long as Deion Sanders wants to coach, there's going to be success. So you better buckle up.
There's two keys in any industry you work in that can make you very successful at anything. Who are your connections, right? And can you innovate and use current trends or technology to your benefit. And it pisses everyone off because Dion has just dove headfirst into transfer portal, headfirst into social media, headfirst into his celebrity, headfirst into his connections, because he's a well-connected guy as one of the great NFL players of all time. And it all works. And I think he just makes people mad because he told you it was going to work.
Yeah.
Right. He's always been so confident in himself and in all those things. And yeah, most traditional football coaches don't have all of those resources. You don't have those relationships. You don't have that social media savvy. You don't have that celebrity status, right?
Yeah.
He is using all of it to his advantage, and it's working.
Yeah. And dude, you bring up a great point with the nuanced innovation, right?
Yes.
That is, it's different. People do not like change.
Right.
And the college football world is changing. And Dion has, like every other very good coach, taken advantage of that, right? And that's why I said this is a modern day rebuild. There's a bit of it's been expedited by the portal and by NIL, and so like that's happening everywhere. But I really think that there is still a big time, overwhelming audience that does not want to tip their cap to Deion Sanders. I don't. And I think that they think it's a complete hoax, and I think they think that it's phony, and I think that they're learning that it's not.
We talked, I think, last week about the disrespect for the Big 12 in general and some of these AP playoff ranking things. The way Deion shuts people up, at least in a sane world, is go win a playoff game.
Yeah.
Like if he beats BYU and wins the Big 12, they're still going to be, BYU was fluky. They won all these close games. If Colorado rolls in and beats one of those 2-loss SEC teams that gets in, or whoever they face, shut up. The dude's a coach. Like he's winning good football games, right?
And I couldn't agree more. And I think the only thing that will stop him or block him from that kind of success is opportunity elsewhere, right? Like he's a different type of guy where he's not going to spend the next 30, 20 years at Colorado, 10 years at Colorado, building a dynasty or an incredible program the next Alabama. He might be coaching the Cowboys next year.
The Cowboys and Florida State are both going to call him. So he will have his options.
Yeah. I am fired up,
which by the way, if the Cowboys and Florida State call him, you know what that means? He's doing a pretty good job.
That's it, dude.
He's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Those two, Florida State and the Dallas Cowboys, are not calling dudes to come coach that can't. Well, Florida State a couple times, but they are not trying to call dudes that can't coach, right?
Yeah.
They're calling guys that can win.
Who was the guy that coached at Oregon that got the job at Florida State? Willie Fritz. Not Willie Fritz.
No.
Willie Fritz is
Willie. Sorry, I mixed up my. Yeah. That's the.
I'm doing this, and then we're going to take a break.
That's the Houston coach. Willie. I'm mad. I'm forgetting his name.
Willie Taggart. Yeah. Who, by the way, Taggart from Beverly Hills Cop died just a little while ago. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. We got some good news coming up with Cam Stewart on the other side of this short break here at the Rogue Media Network. There's so much other stuff I wanted to get to. I did the Baylor game last night on radio, which was like a whole nother animal for me. It was like, it was cool. That's how I did radio at the University of Richmond for the student radio station. I did radio for the NBA, what was then Development League, for several years, back, I guess, 11 years ago. And it's a whole different ball game. You have to be more descriptive. You have to be more apt at showing people or telling people, you can't show them, where the ball is on the floor, time and score, fouls, stuff they can't see this stuff. And that was a lot of fun. But there's also it's a pregame show, a postgame show. And the postgame show was a lot of fun, like we got to talk to Scott Drew, and then I got to talk to Jalen Celestine, and both of them were awesome. After the game, Coach Drew walked out of the locker room and walked right over to John Morris, who was the regular voice of the Baylor Bears on the radio, but John was doing TV. So Coach Drew got redirected to me, which I don't think he was crazy about, but he's a human being. And he and I worked together, and had a great conversation. And then Jalen Celestine came aboard, and, It was all good stuff. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, man. So much to talk to. Cam is going to take it from here with me, of course, and Scotty will get involved a little bit. But we do want to break down some of that Baylor basketball game. We talk a little bit more football. Looking forward to talking about the future of what Baylor's program could be. All of that coming up after this short break. The Pete Sousa Show, presented by Slovacics and powered by the Rogue Media Network.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
All is right with the basketball world. God's gift to the game of basketball, the Boston Celtics are back in the NBA Finals, baby. I don't think the Mavs did anything special. They played well enough to win and win pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought the Celtics didn't show up to play at all, and maybe if they showed some fight in the second half, they would have lost by 15 or so. Is he in the Red Sox Team Hall of Fame?
He is also in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
Something about this guy being in the Team Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I did. So,
deserving, man.
Which seems like it fits. Sports.
Pete Sousa Show continues with Cam Stewart. I just got a text message that says, "You have clothes in the dryer. I didn't take them out. I don't live with anybody, and my girlfriend's not in town."
That's not a good sign. It could be that crackhead coming back.
No, it's not. There's
Sadie, make sure.
There's a young woman who is moving into my old place, and would you be surprised that there's still a lot of my stuff there? So now basically she's on the payroll and she's packing the remaining stuff up, which I'm going to pick up later on today and put in the back of my car.
Wait. So, are you subleasing the old place?
No, I'm out of there, but
some of your stuff is still there.
Yes.
Why?
Because I'm an idiot.
Oh, okay.
And
there's someone else living there, and your clothes are in the dryer.
Well, they're not there yet. They're not supposed to be living there yet. In all fairness to me, they're not supposed to start living there till the 15th. And I have not much left, but I mean, she's a very cool person. So literally I was like, "Hey, I'm going to send you some money when you pack that stuff up." And she's like, "Yeah, I'll pack it up." So anyways.
I thought this was a wrong number thing. And it turns out there's a good explanation for it. But...
It couldn't be any more right.
Wow. This is a good story to get us started there.
Cam, last night, you and I both in attendance at the Baylor men's basketball game. And yeah, Baylor got a big win. And what's the number one piece of Locked On content you got out of the game?
In terms of quality that I thought was good, or what got
what did you get a lead story out of that?
I mean, VJ was the lead story.
Wow.
VJ Edgecombe. Yeah. So there's a couple different offshoots I could have done from it. I could have got real into the basketball thing and talked about all the different kind of defenses they ran in the first half. There's going to be a Rob Wright thing coming up that I just got to talk about Rob Wright. And Jade Nunn, it might be their best scorer this year. He's their best 3-point shooter now, and his offensive aggressiveness has changed. That was the other thing I asked Scott about, which I like. But VJ brought the house down 3 or 4 separate times last night. And for those who were skeptical about his slow start, right? Not a good first game against Gonzaga, not a good shooting night against Arkansas. He was awesome last night. I think it was 13 points, 6 of 9 shooting, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. Scott Drew in the postgame said, I don't think we've ever had a freshman get a triple-double. And I literally said, not yet. Like, I think that's well within his capabilities. And he's the best lob threat they've got on the team. He's a guard.
Yeah.
Like they threw 2 alley-oops to him, and his putback dunk was incredible, which did hit the Sports Center top 10.
Yeah.
But like it was right in front of me. The place just lost its mind. It was a missed 3, and VJ's way in the air already, like head above the rim, chin above the rim, and is like reaching back, like almost behind the backboard to get it and throw it back on a putback. You remember that Grant Hill dunk in the national championship
against
game?
Kansas.
It's a different angle, and it's not the same, but the way he contorts his body is like that Grant Hill dunk, except it's bang, bang, but ball coming off the back or coming off the rim. And he just dunks it, and it's just like goes back, plays defense.
How much
Like
excitement?
nothing happened.
How much excitement is there around him? Like in your Locked On Nation, like if you put up a VJ Edgecombe story or podcast, or people like commenting on it, is it crazy?
It should be more big time than it is. I don't think that's a knock on VJ. I think that's a knock on Baylor basketball fans. But like that was the thumbnail was him last night.
Yeah.
And it was the next Russell Westbrook. Because that's what he's reminded me a lot of. Now, Fran has said Dwayne Wade a few times.
Yeah.
Which I can also see, but the explosiveness is just off the charts with this kid.
Scotty, you were there last night. He's like a tag team wrestler dying to get into the ring here. He's marching back and forth.
It was my first time at Foster, man.
All right. So Scotty, your thoughts about VJ and the overall experience?
VJ's blew my mind. He's incredible. The experience at Foster is unreal. I'm mad now that I didn't make it up here. I was living in Houston last year. I didn't make it up for a game. The place was phenomenal.
Wait till you get a big time matchup there, Scotty.
Oh, I can't
just wait.
I really
Pete's seen it. It's
I really can't wait. But VJ, I don't think I have a comp. Like, he is way more lengthy and big than Russell Westbrook, but I see the explosiveness, athleticism thing to it. Yeah, he's way more explosive than Dwayne Wade. All due respect to one of the GOATs, but like, I don't know who you comp him to. I made this comp, Cam. This is kind of a throwback. I said VJ Edgecombe is what my generation of Baylor students thought Deuce Bello would be, but infinitely better. He's infinitely better.
That's an interesting comp. That is an interesting comp.
Deuce Bello came out of high school and at the time was one of the highest recruits
really
he ever had.
Yeah.
But all the hype around him was like, this dude can drive and dunk on anybody. Like, this dude is so athletic. And then he lost the dunk contest before the season to Pierre Jackson. And that should have been our cue. That he wasn't all we had hyped him up to be. But that putback, I'm kind of mad at how that putback, I don't think there's a good angle.
By the way, real quick, the headline on the story that pops up for 32-year-old Deuce Bello.
Oh, no.
YouTube sensation to forgotten gem.
Good for him.
Well, it says, no, I'm saying YouTube sensation to forgotten gem.
So,
yeah.
Scotty was like, "Is he have a channel going right now?"
I was like, he's a YouTube star. Good for him.
No.
We should have him on the show. But
no, I don't think
I get fascinated by those guys, by the
dude.
way. Like the big time high school females that don't even pan out in like college. Obviously, they're sad, right? It's usually sad stories, but like those stories just really fascinate me because it's like being a child star, dude. It's exactly the same thing. Like and it's more sudden. Usually.
There's some Reddit stuff here that I would rather not read aloud.
Okay, fine, don't.
But
sorry for bringing up ancient history for those that haven't followed Baylor basketball for more than 10 years. But
he played for Frank Haith at Mizzou. He transferred.
He transferred from Baylor to Mizzou for playing time and didn't get playing time there either.
Yeah, and then Frank Haith left. Rough go for Deuce.
Ever since.
But Edgecombe, there's no comp. Like I don't know a guy. I can't think of one off the top of my head that's that lengthy, that skilled, and that explosive.
For me, it's somewhere between, and this is going to sound insane, and if he doesn't become a superstar, then we'll clip this. To me, it's somewhere between like a Russell Westbrook and a Giannis.
I'm also seeing Giannis.
Because of the length, and the downhill.
Yeah.
I'm also seeing Victor Oladipo.
That makes sense. I think VJ's
He's
more
way
explosive than
lengthier
Oladipo.
too.
Oladipo was the top 3-4 pick. I
Yeah, he
think.
was number
He
2
was.
pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Behind Bennett, Anthony Bennett,
Oh, yeah.
I think. Oladipo felt a little bit more polished, if I'm remembering correctly, in terms of like he could shoot it a little bit and was playing more of a point guard style, which VJ's not going to be asked to do, although he had 7 assists, right? 10 rebounds, 7 assists. But yeah, that he is unstoppable when he gets ahead of steam. And obviously he's not going to get that a ton in the Big 12, but he's proven pretty capable even when he doesn't have a head of steam. Like you watch him in those games, man, he is a part of every play.
And remember,
no matter how he's shooting, he is a part of every play.
I like that he's part of all the hustle plays. Like
Yeah.
he is constantly
Quite a
sticking
few
his
last
nose
night.
in it, going after loose balls. Like,
well, and that's one of the things that Coach Drew was saying last night in the post game when I was talking to him, and even before the game, he talked about, look, this guy's just a winner, and he does whatever is asked, and that kind of fits that. It reminds you, and he's got way more dog. It already seems like than Jacoby Walter, but
Who had some dog? I mean,
but that type of guy, right? Like Jacoby came in here, 5-star, one of the best recruits in the country, and I mean just right in to a part of things. And by no means was he like an alpha that was going to tell the veterans or older guys how things were going to go. He kind of got in line and did the right stuff. And I think VJ's doing the right stuff, and you saw how about that loose ball? We all saw it right near half court.
yeah.
There were like 8 guys diving on the floor, on a Tuesday night game against Sam Houston, and VJ was one of them.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. And that all starts. I do truly believe in culture, right? And that's that Baylor culture. And even though the possession arrow went to Sam Houston, Scott Drew and the crowd really
Was into it. Yeah.
a smarter basketball crowd than Cam gives credit for. Everyone
I
applauded.
didn't say they weren't smart.
They appreciated the effort. It was like a hockey crowd in Montreal.
Oh, well, that's a bunch of prissy wannabes. I don't want to compare them to that.
I like
that they're not wearing suits to the game.
one of you can correct me if I'm misremembering the play. There was a play, I think it was a foul. It was his second or third foul. And Scott immediately pulled him out.
Yeah, and had a moment with him.
And he looked like pissed at himself.
Yeah.
Like that, and I just think it's an attitude thing. Like there's so many, when you're that level, right? Number 3 overall recruit last year. It's easy anytime they call a foul on you to like argue with the ref or shrug up, but he is like beating himself up over every little detail.
Yeah.
To make himself great.
And by the way, I wanted to talk, Pete, because you mentioned like a leadership thing and kind of gelling with the guys. That's not been a problem at Baylor for a long time, right? Like I'm not saying that any of these other guards did not have that, but in the post game, I don't know if you watched the post game, Pete, but
I had my own post game show that I was doing.
That's right. Sorry.
I mean, I was overwhelmed at the
Whatever.
time. Go ahead. I'll tell you that story in a second.
So it was Jaden Nunn and VJ up there at the podium, and they're like laughing with each other, giggling, and Jaden is giving all this praise to VJ without being asked really about it. And I'm like, this is like, I know it's Sam Houston, it's November 12th, whatever, but like there's a respect there. And Jaden Nunn has started a lot of college basketball games, like nearing 100. And he's a dog. People listen to him. He's a senior. And here he is with this freshman who gets all kinds of hype. And you know how that can be of, this guy's going to come in here and run this team. Yeah, sure. And they're like simpatico, like that, like laughing with each other, giving each other compliments, saying how great each other are, or the great games that they had. Like there's something there. That's like I know you don't necessarily think respect when they're giggling, but
no,
there's a
for
respect
sure.
thing there.
Yeah, and I'll take it one further. One from a basketball perspective. This goes back to a question that I asked you when we were both talking about. You talked about Nunn, and I asked David Kay last night because I haven't been around the program as long as you guys have. I said, his jump already. I said it was halftime, and I was like, and he's got like 7 threes in his last game and a half. I was like, this is a guy who came to school last year known as a defensive stopper, right? Like he was not anybody that was going to be some deep threat, at least not consistently. And now here he is. And then David went on to say, with his like library of Baylor basketball knowledge, he said, that happens often in the second year under Scott Drew for a lot of these transfers, right? I mean, you guys, I guess, know that, but I wasn't aware. He said, and we're seeing that already. I was gonna
say, who the biggest one was, and specifically looking at that play type and that position is Davion Mitchell. So Mitchell's first year was 1920, which was the year that Baylor went to elite status. They were 26-4 before the tournament was called off. And he was the starting point guard from day one, but he did not shoot. Like no one would guard him out on the perimeter as a shooter. You couldn't do it. And he was still a pretty good point guard and obviously a great defender. And then the next year he shows some offensive prowess. And from the beginning of March on, he's their best player and he's unguardable. Like he's taking guys off the dribble. He's hitting 45% from three the last month of the season, and becomes a top 10 pick. Like as a guy who was not a shooter the year before. It was incredible. We just saw it with Jalen Bridges too. I know you watched all of Jalen Bridges here at Baylor, Pete. He was a guy who kind of was trying to figure out his role like the first half of his first season. That's who David K compared him to. And then he becomes this lights out shooter, and clearly Scott's telling him like that's what you are. You can score inside out. And last year, I thought most of the season he was their best player, Jalen Bridges. But if none can become half of what Davion Mitchell gave him in 2021, that's a guy who is going to be an all Big 12 player. Yeah.
And then speaking to, the culture we were talking about, like, and those guys afterwards laughing and joking, I
good point by DK.
Yeah. I had never met, obviously Celestine, right? But he was the guy who we got last night. And like, look, man, like I said, there was a lot going on. I was trying to manage breaks and figuring out, I don't want to throw to a break and then have a player come over and ready to be interviewed, nor do I want to have to do that with Scott Drew. So I'm like kind of staying on the air. Yeah. So Coach Drew comes out of the locker room and he walks over to J-Mo, all the way over to J-Mo. And J-Mo is like, no, you're over there with Pete. So then Coach Drew looks at me.
Sousa.
Yeah. So then Coach Drew, who again, kind of knows me, comes over and I wave him over and he sits down and he's looking at the box score and he's talking about VJ and he's talking about how much of a winner he is. And then, he kind of lightens up and continues to go through. And then Jalen comes over to the scores table and Coach Drew was like, hey, he could have had a couple more rebounds. He's giving him a hard time. But then Jalen sits down. And at this point, just by human being and human nature, I'm kind of nervous. I've never met him. Players, you have no clue what you're going to get. This guy could say one word. He could be pissed about being there. So many times as a PR person, you bring guys over for a post-game interview. It was like you were asking for a kidney.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the guy was happy to be there to the point where I'm like,
Jalen's phenomenal.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea.
We had him on the Mosley show.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Great.
I mean, I'm like, this guy would do this all day.
And by the way, this is not to pile on. He did not have a good game.
Yeah.
When everyone else did. Right. And you could see him kind of the shot. It's not going in yet. He was a 45% 3-point shooter.
I told him that. I was like, you're 45%. Like that.
It's gonna drop. And you saw it. I mean, he's taking good shots. He had open shots against Arkansas. It's been a that's the culture, man.
Yeah.
There's culture to that.
Scotty, go ahead.
Canadian guy.
I shared something I learned in the offseason, and you guys might know this. I don't know if basketball team reviews bench film.
I had heard that. Yes. Yeah.
So they have good
bench film.
They have game film. And players be disciplined or whatever based on their conduct on the bench, including how they treat teammates all the way to the end of the bench before they come back and take their seat. If you're pouty, I mean, they like Scott Drew have fun together and they're laughing in the post game. Dude, that culture, that's a 2-decade culture.
Yeah.
That includes like, hey, we have a very high standard for you when you are on the bench. It doesn't matter how many minutes you play. I told that to a buddy of mine last night who's a veteran, and he was like, yeah, that's like the military. Like if you're out there, there's a standard, and if you don't meet the standard, it's a problem. And for Scott, I think half of his standards are character things.
Yeah.
Aranda got roasted a couple years ago for saying like person over player, because we weren't winning many football games, but Drew gets these like killer players.
Well, that's
who are also wonderful people.
That's a whole another debate, and I totally agree with you. I almost think you can't do it in football because there's too many guys. Like overwhelmingly,
totally
Baylor has it overwhelmingly. I'll say too. Jason Asamoah hits that 3.
Boston guy.
Lynn Mass.
Yep.
Is he
Lynn,
like truly a Boston guy?
I mean, Lynn is.
But is he from like another country or no? He's Boston.
No, I think
kid.
I think he's Lynn through and through.
How much you love that?
But he played high school, obviously elsewhere. But I love that, man. We don't get many.
Yeah, so he hits a 3 last night off the bench. You could tell. I mean, Jeremy Roach was like, he was on the bench, but he was like out on the free throw line. He was so excited, like the whole team just exploded, and you do kind of feel that. All right, Cam, let's do one more thing.
He wears number 5 for Terrence Clark, by the way.
What'd you say?
He wears number 5 for Terrence Clark.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you remember him, the kid from Kentucky, Boston kid.
Yeah, he got killed.
Yeah, killed right before the draft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
That's a guy. Yeah.
Cameron. Wow, that's
what
good.
else would I be here for? What else would I be here for, Pete?
That's really good.
Oh,
Cam.
if we got the bonsai, it would have been insufferable. Insufferable.
All right. Anything else from last night's game? Behind the scenes, anything? That was your first game as a media member.
Yeah.
Last night, credentialed at the game. You were upset about the hot dogs. You said that. Here's the difference between me and you. Whereas I got a chuckle about it after the game when I was leaving. Cam, you were kind of
I did. I was not that serious about it.
No, you were.
No, I was not. I thought it was kind of funny.
Mosley gets upset though.
Sometimes, yeah.
See, Mosley, and let me tell you something.
And trust me, it's not Mosley. Most of the media members do love.
Yeah, can I tell you why? And I love these guys because they cover the sports and the sports, but they cover these teams as beat writers and even columnists. I love, but these dyed-in-the-wool sports guys need to get over it, dude. With the free rides with the food, all right, and because I worked in media relations and public relations for a long time, like. Guys bitching about the food is like you really are like I'm
finding
nervous.
Something.
Yeah, I'm trying to do all this crap that is tough for me, and I'm stressed. And then I got a guy bitching about the Bojangles in the media room and asking why it's no longer catered. It's like, dude, get over it. It's free. It's free shit. But the media was spoiled back in the day. And I mean, think about it this way, dude. I was listening to this Vern Lundquist book. That I'm almost done now. And when Vern was covering the Cowboys as just a dude, he was working for WFAA. They would take him and other members of the media on a charter to a game. I mean, wide open booze on the plane. You get there, you're drinking, and that was the norm. And that was treating the media was super important. Like when I worked for the Hornets or for the Bobcats. There was this thing that you used to do, and this is before. I mean, we used to do so much great stuff for the media. It was before really the internet. Sorry, but it was 2004, so there was a ton of internet stuff, but we weren't as digital with papers and stuff. So you would drop off packets for everybody. If when the Knicks played the Hornets, there'd be 7 different writers. So Pete would have to borrow a car because I didn't have a car at the time and drive to all these different hotels and drop off these packets. And if somebody didn't get their packet, dude, look out. I mean, it was a whole deal. Yeah. Frank, my boss, Scott Lively, Frank, I saw he hasn't gotten his packet. I'd be like, dude, you said he was staying at the Omni by the arena. He'd be like, no, he's not there. He's downtown. He switched. I told you that. I'd be like, oh.
Fucking hell.
I'd be like, anyway. Should I make him a new packet? I don't think so. You just go get the old one. It's there. I'm like, oh my God.
Anyway, you asked one more thing about the game, and I'll give you the one more thing about the game.
Yeah.
The students, electric.
An hour and a half before the game, when I was talking to you and Mosley on the phone, they were lining up.
This is the next thing I'm going to say is going to sound like complete hearsay, but right now, Baylor has the team, the arena, and the students to have an atmosphere like Duke does, but they don't have the rest of the crowd.
Correct.
And I get it. Sam Houston, Tuesday night. You're not going to punch the place out as Baylor. But teams do that. Duke does that. Kansas, different scenario. They do that. Villanova did that, every night. And Baylor's got 3 of the 4 things right now.
I know. So how do we?
And
do
I thought
that?
they did the game day atmosphere. I thought they were great with it,
How
by
do
the
we?
way.
So how do we turn those games into events?
That's what I'm trying to really figure out. And I think there's some proactive things Baylor can do in terms of like getting people from the community to come. Because the complaint all the time is that Baylor's alums are in Dallas, Houston, Austin, a couple hours away. They don't want to come on a Tuesday night.
Where do you think the folks that go to Lawrence are located?
I know. I've
Kansas
used that
City.
argument that not all the Dukies live in Durham. Trust me. Most of them wouldn't be caught dead living in parts of Durham. Okay. Ames. How many of them live in Ames, Iowa? And that place is packed to the hilt. No pun intended. And to your point, they're not all living in Lawrence. Kansas City's not that far away. But that's the next step for Baylor. And Tech has some people living in Lubbock, but they've got a fan base there of people that didn't necessarily go to Tech. And so they can punch that place out. Baylor has to figure that out. And so do Baylor alums. That's the question. How does it become an event? Because I was pleasantly surprised to see how great an atmosphere the students made it last night.
It was really cool.
Throwaway game, and I hope they do it again against Tarleton. Second game of the year. Are you going to show out then? It's a Sunday night. I think they will. And I put this in my notes. I'm sorry, we're going way over time here, but 5 minutes into the game, they went up 15-5. Jeremy Roach had just hit a 3. Sam Houston timeout. The place is going nuts, and it's a media timeout. And right away, right as that timeout gets called, the lights lower, and they start doing the kill, like right away. And I'm like, they nailed that. It's not like football games where you have a big pick and the place is going nuts. Media timeout. Here's our charity champion for life. Like none of that.
Yeah.
Not even the Mattson financial putt, which people love, which they got. I know you got to do those throughout the game, but it was a big moment and they leaned right into it. And so they're so close. They are so close. My sincere hope is I'm coming back in 5 years. There's another Final Four national championship banner up there, and it feels like going to Cameron Indoor. I don't know if they're going to be camping out in Drewville, but they have an opportunity to become an elite game day college basketball. This is what the sport is all about kind of atmosphere. They're very close.
Should have saved that take for your show. All right. That's pretty damn
I did
good.
a little bit on lockdown.
All right. Cameron Stewart.
I something I really believe in, man. I love college basketball, and I love college basketball schools and environments. And Baylor, amazingly, is that close. Because even when I graduated, they were nowhere near that. And they're that close with this building.
I love it. All right. Cam Stewart. Catch him this afternoon. ESPN Central Texas with Matt Mosley and, of course, Locked On and the Cam Show here on the Rogue Media Network. Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network, marches on after.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman.
Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to. The only thing we have to look forward to. That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the two most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned kind of the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Sports.
Final segment of the Pete Sousa Show. We are here, and a little bit of a developing news before we let you go today. Earlier in the week, we talked with Matt Mosley, Cowboys beat writer, about the possibility of Deion Sanders being the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It's not quite as crazy as you'd think, simply because Jerry Jones is head over heels in love with Deion, and he's gone on record talking about Deion. And if you missed the first segment of the show, we really talked about the legitimacy that Deion has as a head football coach. He's proven, he can. Yesterday we talked about Jerry Faust, who went from the high school ranks to coaching Notre Dame and was just overmatched, right? Overwhelmed, really. Great guy. He passed away. That's why we were talking about him. So today we're talking about Deion Sanders, and we're not talking about any kind of jump like that. Again, we think about Deion Sanders as this celebrity, but he's a very good football coach. And Scotty mentioned it, Florida State and Dallas, those two jobs are going to come open in the offseason. And everybody wants to know what Deion is going to say or how he would respond to any kind of overture from the Cowboys. Well, we didn't have to wait long to find out. Joy Taylor, who's one of my favorite, Paul Pierce, and Michael Irvin. Of course, who else? And Keyshawn, too. But who else than Michael Irvin to present this question to Deion Sanders? Scotty, roll the video.
Be better than they really are, besides Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know you focus day to day. I know you're a day-to-day man. But can you think about some days?
Let me take the computer here, because you starting to talk that talk. I got to show you where I am. I love it where I am.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
I love it where I am. I love it.
You already know you're going with
I love it where I am.
Hey, it is beautiful at that time. But it's beautiful in Dallas now. It's beautiful time.
Man, you got unfinished business, man.
I love so many things about that. One is the quick wit and his ability to take the air out of the situation and the seriousness of it. That is a magician right there, a public relations and just personality, really, magician that Deion is, but also the relationship he has with Michael Irvin, like the strong relationship that those two have, and that Michael Irvin could ask that question and it's welcomed by Deion. It's not like offensive, and if that was asked by somebody else in the local media, there probably would have been a much different scenario. And that's another thing too I'd mention. Deion's not without his flaws. Some of the stuff he's done in the treatment of the local media has been pretty lame, but he's human. And a lot of times I'm sure he has felt some of the pressure, whether he wants to show it or not. But that's pretty interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what will happen, especially what will happen if Colorado can win a playoff game. One other thing, college football note, Baylor getting set to take on West Virginia. That's a huge game. And I'll tell you this. This is not my opinion. This is what's going to happen. Baylor is going to win the football game. And here's why they're going to win the football game. It's in the afternoon. Call me crazy, okay? It's a huge difference, right? The game is going to be played, I think, at 4 Eastern time, which in that area, it'll get dark around, I don't know, in about 2 hours. But we're not talking about that scary environment that Baylor has played in before. Those night games where it's like there was a Thursday night game there, and this is, I think, 2017, Matt Rule's first year, where they got, annihilated. And it was the atmosphere, it was everything. That's a scary place to play, regardless of how well your team is playing, and how experienced you are. Morgantown at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night is terrifying. Morgantown at 3:30 on a Saturday afternoon is not quite as terrifying. Scotty, what do you got?
I was going to add that it's not just Morgantown at night, because in 2012, very famously, Baylor lost a game in Morgantown 70-63. I think there was one punt in that entire football game, and it was Baylor, and that ended up being the difference. Terrence Williams, I think, had 300 receiving yards. I think Austin, why am I forgetting his name? The real fast receiver for West Virginia that
Austin Eckler?
No, he played for Dallas. Tavon Austin.
Yeah,
I think he had like 300 yards. It was like the craziest thing. That was an 11 a.m. kickoff. So I like that we're not kicking off at night, and I also like, because of history, that we're not kicking off at 11.
I truly believe that could be a possible difference maker. The fact that the game on that show, Inside the 12, which will air tomorrow in all the markets that have Big 12 teams in them, and you can watch it on the Big 12's YouTube channel. I said today we had the guest picker on was a gentleman who is Colorado's play-by-play guy, and Mark Johnson. And we talked about that game, and he said he picked West Virginia. And I said, look, if it was a game at 3 in the afternoon or at 8 at night, I would take West Virginia. It's 3 in the afternoon. That is a much more manageable situation. It just is. And I don't know if it has to do with like the intake of alcohol or what, like the longer day to get lubed up.
I think in Morgantown, they're going to be
they'll be ready to rip, but I'm telling you,
no matter what time it is.
Look, they would get, I'm telling you. That's all I'm saying. All right.
I'm with you. I think what's most interesting about this game is both teams trying to get bowl eligible.
Yeah.
And both teams, I think, feeling that pressure. Neil Brown's been there for a minute. Like, both teams need to get bowl eligible.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to need you back tomorrow, Scotty.
I'll be here.
All right. And we have a packed show for you tomorrow. Cannot wait. A couple guests, a lot of cool topics. Don't go anywhere. All right. You can go somewhere for the next 23 hours. But we'll see you tomorrow at 1. And, the Pete Sousa Show presented by Slovacics rolls on tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. It really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
I mean, yeah, a new coach comes in, they're going to turn the roster. I think that's just we've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super, super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
But look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View podcast, Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been, no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy to have you today.
Nah, thanks for having me. And you know we always family no matter where I'm at.
All is right with the basketball world. God's gift to the game of basketball, the Boston Celtics are back in the NBA Finals, baby. I don't think the Mavs did anything special. They played well enough to win and win pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought the Celtics didn't show up to play at all, and maybe if they showed some fight in the second half, they would have lost by 15 or so. Is he in the Red Sox Team Hall of Fame?
He is also in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
Something about this guy being in the Team Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I did.
So,
deserved it, man.
Which seems like it fit.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history.
But he also had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe more relaxed.
What were a couple of your biggest takeaways? The person you referred to that I spoke with, I've spoken to some personnel people and general management of the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that. Has the general manager changed at all in the draft? Right?
Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
We are Rogue Media Sports.